at the risk that they'll go and find their own opportunities, or you actually help them, hoping that they'll appreciate that, and if they don't come back to you straight away, they probably will come back to you eventually.
So they're kind of thinking almost like having two hats on, the kind of local organisational hat and, as you say, the system.
And I'd probably say to you that with the senior leadership, executive leadership group, they are more likely to be mobile than your clinical leaders.
Okay.
Because your clinical leaders generally have a mixture of, well, they don't all have private practice, but they set themselves up in a geographical area, particularly if we're talking about medical staff, and therefore they then engage and embed themselves into organisations based on that geographic setup. They often have private practice, so they can run their private public practices by being located in a geographical area that enables them to go to a few places. So with the VCCC it works in a lot of levels because a lot of those partners are not too far away from themselves.
The precinct over in Parkville.
We're a little bit further, and Austin's a bit further.
Do you think that makes a difference, being a bit more away from the Parkville precinct, as it's referred to?
It's what I would consider pros and cons.
Yeah, okay.
So the pros are, if I'm a very talented clinical leader, clinician, that I would probably love to immerse myself into these institutions that have got great histories right next to Melbourne University. It's easy to collaborate and get together, on that basis. But that also can be limiting. So, there's a risk that the precinct has had a lot of money invested in it. You can end up being in a little bit of a bubble. If you get in your car and you drive 20 k's out to Sunshine Hospital, or the area, the community that lives and surrounds Sunshine Hospital, you may see a different picture. And the reason everyone wants to partner with Western is because all the people they want to study are the ones that live out there, who have got those, socio.
My niece works in. She's a nurse, Georgia Mulhall. She works in emergency out there, and some of her recollections of some of the issues she's dealing with pretty confronting.
So our maternity patients, highest obesity rate, highest heart disease, highest cancer rates, all of those things, which makes then the clinicians who are desperate to do research and pull people into their studies, they want to play with us because that's that cohort we've got out there.
It's a kind of a slightly perverse advantage in a sense. The inherent socio-demographics are appealing, as you say.
At the same time, if they have a breakthrough, wow.
Yes.
So there's a very good reason for us to be partnering.
Yeah.
So we've got something they want, and they've got something we want.
Just back on the, before we move off it, you were talking a bit about that sharing of specialist expertise, more so with the kind of leadership talent, but less so with the clinical leaders, for the reasons you mentioned. Are there any other kind of workforce type or HR practice related benefits that you kind of see as being useful?
And what we do on an informal basis, I suppose, is that we, for example, have a HR network.
Okay.
And an organisational development network. Okay. So next month in July we're hosting the organisational development network, and we have invited members from the group in Safer Care Victoria, who look after leadership programs, to come and join in and talk. And we're doing a bit of work at the moment on cultural engagement, and we've partnered with Deakin University and a consultant firm called Peoplescape, and we've just started to roll out this project. So we're going to talk about that to the group. So there is a willingness amongst health professionals to share, which is pretty good because in a lot of ways we're quite competitive as well, because we're competing for any extra dollar that might be available in the department. So, if we can come up with the idea first, go in, pitch it, we might get some dollars. So that, is we want to share, but not if it means that we might lose dollars. So,
do you sense any caveats on that? So, for example, let's say you felt you needed to sharpen up a particular area of HR practice. You had a feeling that others might be doing something that would be beneficial. Would you be quite open in going to the group saying, hey, look, I've got this problem, can you help me?
And we do that. Yeah, so we actually go, in an email, we might go, we've got an issue with this, anyone got any ideas, or has someone used this? Simple thing, like when we had to recruit for the chief exec, the rules of engagement by the department is that I must go to an external recruiter to do that. So since I'd never recruited a chief exec of a health service, and most HR directors probably only ever do that once, unless there are major issues, and then if there are major issues you might not be in your job that long, right?
Yes.
So I put out to my colleague at Melbourne, who did you use? Because they'd done a reasonable recent recruitment, and there was one other, I think Eastern had done it as well. So, we share contacts and that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, and that was quite an open process. Yeah. Okay, cool, all right. Now, we were just talking before, back on the external partners, we were talking about physical
locations.
Are there any other kind of, if you think about the ability or willingness to partner, is there any characteristics of those organisations that on the one hand help or on the other hand hinder partnering? So we talked a bit about physical proximity. Are there any organisational characteristics that kind of
I do think that you need to feel like there is a trust relationship.
Okay. Yep.
I think shared values.
Yep.
And shared purpose. I think organisations can be actually a bit egotistical.
Yeah.
Not just people. Because I guess an organisation's made up by its people. It's a sum of its people. And if the cultural is a bit elitist, for example, maybe, or there's a sense there is, or on the flip side, if your organisation is one of almost victim, woe is us, we're the poor cousins, blah, 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 I think that can affect relationships.
From the point of view of
you won't want to share, and not necessarily partner, because will the partnership be equal?
Yeah.
So we're going to all get equal recognition of a particular achievement, or we're all going to get equal sharing of whatever the resource is.
So I was talking to Ellen Flint over at Melbourne the other day, and she was making the same point actually. Because this focus on balancing ego with humility, and trying to sort of strike the right cultural tone, in between those two. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So clearly all of those things, if they're tilted more in that kind of, as you say, that opposing direction, it makes collaboration harder, particularly trust. Yeah. Okay.
And, look, we again, our partnerships with the universities, we need to have a relationship with Melbourne University. VU is one of our partners, and then we play with Deakin and La Trobe for all different things, because, for medicine, we actually have a combined, we work with Melbourne University in medical school. And in the early days, probably Western felt like they were getting their fair share of the good students who became interns. That's not the story now, and that's been because of the way we have worked over the last few years to get high calibre person in charge of medical education. So we had Peter Ebling for a while from Melbourne University embedded in us, and now we've got Stephen Liu, and so that relationship and the calibre of students we've got is really high now. We get really good access to those students, but then they also work in a consortium, so the students are moved. Well, I shouldn't say the students, the interns once they've done their